Cole Hartfield noticed the bruises 3 days before he said a word. They circled Mara Kendall's wrists like dark bracelets, purple blooming into yellow at the edges. She kept her sleeves pulled down when she could, but when she reached for the flour tin on the high shelf, the fabric rode up. He was standing in the doorway with his hat still on, watching her work, and he saw them clear as day. She caught him looking, pulled her sleeves down fast, kept her eyes on the dough. This is one of those stories that stays with you long after you hear it. The kind that reminds you some people carry more than anyone should have to carry, and some people see what others won't. If this is the kind of story you want more of, subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Drop the name of your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. Because what Cole Hartfield did at dawn 3 days later became the story people told for 50 years afterward in every ranch house from Copper Falls to the Wyoming border. Mara Kendall came to the Hartfield Ranch in February of 1883, when the snow was still piled waist-high against the barn. She answered the advertisement Cole had posted at the general store in town. Housekeeper needed, room and board provided, wages paid monthly. She was the only one who answered. Most women took one look at the isolation of the place and kept walking. The ranch sat 12 miles from Copper Falls, Montana, at the end of a road that disappeared entirely when the wind picked up. Cole had been alone there for 2 years since his father died and left him 300 acres, 40 head of cattle, and a silence so heavy it had weight. The first time she walked into his house, she filled the doorway. Not with noise. Mara Kendall was the quietest woman Cole had ever met, but with presence. She was a big woman, heavy through the middle and the hips, with arms that looked like they could carry a full water pail in each hand without stopping. Her face was round and plain, her hair pulled back tight under a faded bonnet. She did not apologize for taking up space. She set her carpetbag down on the floor, looked around the cabin with the kind of gaze a woman uses when she is calculating how much work needs doing, and said, "I can start now if you want." Cole nodded. He was not a man who wasted words. She noticed the stares when she came into town for supplies. Women looked at her and then looked away fast. Men looked longer. She kept her eyes forward and kept walking. She had learned a long time ago that the world's opinion of her body was the world's problem, not hers. What mattered was whether her hands were steady and her work was sound. And her work was sound. The bruises showed up in the 3rd week. Cole did not ask where they came from. Mara did not offer, but he started paying attention. She flinched when he walked into a room too fast. She kept her back to the wall when she worked in the kitchen. And every Saturday, after she finished her work for the week, she walked the 12 miles into Copper Falls and did not come back until Sunday evening. She never said where she went. Cole never asked, but he noticed. The days settled into a rhythm that felt older than either of them, like it had been waiting there all along for them to step into it. Mara rose before dawn, 4:30 every morning without fail, and had the fire going and the coffee boiling by the time Cole came down from the loft. She moved through the kitchen with the kind of efficiency that comes from years of practice, her hands quick and sure. She cooked meals that made the house smell the way a house was supposed to smell. Bacon frying in the big iron skillet, bread baking in the Dutch oven she had found rusting in the cellar and restored to use. Stew simmering low and slow with carrots and onions and chunks of beef that fell apart under a spoon after 6 hours on the stove. Cole had forgotten what it felt like to walk into a warm house and know there was food waiting. For 2 years he had lived on hardtack and jerky and whatever he could throw together after a day of work that left him too tired to care. Now he came in at noon and found cornbread wrapped in a towel to keep it warm, or a plate of cold chicken and biscuits set aside for him, or a bowl of soup that somehow tasted better than anything he remembered from childhood. He tried to tell her once that she did not need to go to so much trouble. She looked at him like he had said something foolish. "It is not trouble, it is the work." And that was the end of that conversation. She kept the house cleaner than it had been since his mother died. She swept the floors every day and scrubbed the table after every meal. She washed his clothes and mended the ones that needed mending, and never once complained about the mud he tracked in or the way he left his boots wherever he took them off. The cabin began to feel like a home again, instead of just a place where a man slept between days of labor. But it was not just the work that changed things. It was the quiet. Cole had spent 2 years talking to himself and the cattle and the wind. Now there was another person in the house, and he found himself noticing things he had stopped noticing. The way the light came through the kitchen window in the morning. The sound of someone humming while they worked. The fact that the coffee pot was always full, and the wood box was always stacked, and the lamp on the table was always trimmed and ready. One morning in early March, she made biscuits. The smell hit him before he was halfway down the ladder from the loft. Butter and flour, and something sweet underneath. Honey, maybe, or molasses. When he sat down at the table, she set a plate in front of him without a word. 3 biscuits, golden on top and steaming when he broke one open. He took a bite, stopped chewing, looked at her. "These are good," he said. She did not smile, but something in her shoulders relaxed. "My mother's recipe." He ate all 3 and did not say anything else, but the next morning she made them again. The ranch had been quiet for so long that Cole had stopped noticing the silence. But with Mara there, the silence changed shape. It was not heavy anymore. It was the kind of quiet 2 people make when they are working side by side and do not need to fill the air with talk. She mended his shirts without being asked. He fixed the latch on her bedroom door without being told it was broken. They moved around each other like dancers who had learned the same steps. His daughter noticed her first. Lily was 7 years old and had not spoken a single word since her mother died in childbirth 2 years before. The doctor said there was nothing wrong with her voice. She just chose not to use it. Cole had tried everything. Coaxing, silence, bribing her with candy from town. Nothing worked. Lily lived in her own world, a world without words. But she watched Mara. One afternoon, Mara was rolling out pie dough on the kitchen table when Lily appeared in the doorway. She stood there for a long time, just watching. Mara did not stop working, but she tilted her head toward the child. "You want to help?" Lily did not answer, but she took 3 steps closer. Mara cut a small piece of dough and handed it to her. "You can make shapes if you want. Whatever you like." Lily took the dough. She pressed it flat with her palms, folded it, pressed it again. Mara worked beside her in silence, and for the first time in 2 years, Cole saw his daughter's face lose that look. The one that made her seem like she was somewhere far away, where no one could reach her. That night, when Cole came in from the barn, Lily was sitting at the table with a plate in front of her. On the plate was a lumpy, misshapen thing that might have been a star or might have been a flower. It was baked golden and dusted with sugar. "She made it herself," Mara said quietly. Cole looked at his daughter. Lily looked back at him with something in her eyes he had not seen in a long time. Hope, maybe, or pride. "It looks real good, Lily," he said. She did not say anything, but she smiled. The bruises got worse. By the end of March, there were new ones every week. A dark mark along her jaw, finger-shaped prints on her upper arms. Once, Cole saw her wince when she lifted the water bucket, and when her sleeve slipped, he saw a bruise the size of a man's fist just below her shoulder. He stood in the barn that night with his hands clenched and his jaw so tight it ached. He knew where she went on Saturdays. He knew who was doing this, but he did not know if she would let him help. The next Saturday, she finished her work and pulled on her coat. "I will be back tomorrow evening," she said, same as always. Cole was standing by the door. He did not move. "You do not have to go." She stopped, looked at him. "I know where you go," he said. "I know what is happening, and you do not have to go back there." Her face went very still. "He is my brother. That does not give him the right. He is all I have left." "No," Cole said, and his voice was quiet, but it had iron in it. "He is not." She stared at him for a long time, then she turned and walked out the door. He watched her disappear down the road into the gray afternoon, and he did not sleep that night. She came back Sunday evening with a black eye. Cole was waiting on the porch when she walked up the road. She saw him and stopped. She looked like she was going to say something, but he spoke first. "This is the last time." "You do not understand." "I understand enough." He came down the steps, stood in front of her. "You are not going back there." "He will come here." "Let him." The words hung in the cold air between them. Mara's face crumpled, just for a second, and then she pulled it back together. "You do not know what he is like." "Then I will find out." Cole's voice was steady. "But you are not going back." She did not argue. She walked past him into the house, and he heard the door to her room close. Lily was watching from the window. Cole met his daughter's eyes, and she nodded once, solemn as a judge. 3 days later, just after dawn, a man rode up to the ranch. Cole had been awake for more than an hour. He had not slept much the night before, maybe 2 hours total, and those had been restless. He had risen in the dark and dressed quietly so as not to wake Lily. He made coffee and stood on the porch drinking it while the sky turned from black to gray to pale blue. He had his rifle leaned against the rail within arm's reach. He knew Tom Kendall would come. Men like that always did. They could not stand losing what they thought belonged to them, even if they had been destroying it. Dutch came out of the bunkhouse around 5:30 and saw Cole standing there. He looked at the rifle, then at Cole's face, and nodded once. He went back inside and came out a minute later with his own rifle. He took up a position by the barn without being asked. The other hands followed, one by one. Nobody said anything. They just stood there, waiting. The sun was just clearing the mountains when they saw the rider coming up the road. His name was Tom Kendall, and he was drunk and mean and looking for his sister. He rode hard, pulling his horse up so roughly the animal nearly sat back on its haunches. He swung down from the saddle like a man who wanted to hit something and was not particular about what. He was a big man, thick through the chest and arms, with a face that looked like it had been used for hard things. His knuckles were scarred and his nose had been broken more than once. He looked at Cole standing on the porch and sneered. "Where is she?" "She is not here," Cole said. His voice was level, calm. "Like hell she is not. I know she is working for you. I asked in town. Everyone knows. Send her out." "No." Tom took 2 steps forward. His hands were clenched into fists at his sides. "You do not get a say in this, Hartfield. She is my sister. She belongs to me. She has been living under my roof, eating my food, taking up space for 2 years, and she has not paid me back a damn thing. She owes me." "She does not owe you anything." Cole's voice was still quiet, but there was iron underneath it now. "She worked for you. She cooked and cleaned and took care of your house. That is not a debt. That is labor. And you did not pay her for it." "I gave her a place to stay." "You beat her," Cole said. The words dropped like stones into still water. "I have seen the marks. Everyone here has seen them. So do not talk to me about what you gave her." Tom's face went red. "That is none of your business." "It is my business now." Cole took 1 step forward, just one, but it was enough to make Tom stop moving. "She is not going back with you. She is not going anywhere with you. And if you set foot on this property again, I will shoot you." "For her?" Tom laughed. It was an ugly sound. "You are going to shoot me for a fat, worthless woman who—" The rifle was in Cole's hands before Tom finished the sentence. He had moved so fast, Tom did not even see it happen. 1 second Cole was standing there empty-handed, and the next the rifle was up and aimed and steady as stone. "Get off my land," Cole said. His voice had not risen, had not changed at all, but every man there felt the shift in the air. There was a long, terrible silence. Tom's face went red, then white. He looked at Cole, then at the ranch hands standing by the barn with their own rifles in their hands, then back at Cole. The rifle did not waver. Cole's finger was on the trigger, and his eyes were cold and flat and absolutely certain. Tom swallowed hard. His bravado drained out of him like water from a cracked barrel. He looked smaller suddenly, less dangerous, just a mean, drunk man who had run out of people to hurt. "You are making a mistake," he said, but his voice shook. "No," Cole said, "I am not." Tom spat in the dirt, climbed back on his horse, sat there for a long moment looking down at Cole like he was trying to think of something to say that would save face. He could not. So he kicked his horse hard and rode off, the animal stumbling under the sudden spur, dust rising up behind them like smoke. Cole stood on the porch until the sound of hoofbeats faded into nothing. Then he lowered the rifle and turned around. Mara was standing in the doorway. Her face was pale and she was shaking, but she was standing upright. Behind her, Lily was holding onto her skirt with both hands. The ranch hands were still watching from across the yard. One of them, an older man named Dutch who had worked for Cole's father, took off his hat and nodded once at Mara. The others followed. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. She was not alone anymore. Cole walked up the steps and stopped in front of her. "He will not come back." "You do not know that." "Yes, I do." His voice was certain. "And if he does, I will be here." She looked at him for a long time. Then, slowly, she reached out and touched his arm. Just once. Just for a second.
"Thank you,"
she said, and her voice broke on the words. "You do not need to thank me," Cole said. "You are safe here." That night she made supper for everyone. Cole, Lily, and the 4 ranch hands. She set the table in the main house, something that had not been done since Cole's father was alive. The ranch hands usually ate in the bunkhouse, cooking their own meals or eating whatever they could scrounge. But Mara had made enough for 8 people, and when Dutch knocked on the door to ask if Cole needed anything before they turned in, she told him to fetch the others. "There is plenty," she said. "No sense letting it go to waste." They came uncertainly, hats in hands, boots scraped clean on the porch. Cole waved them to the table, and they sat down like men who were not quite sure they were allowed to be there. Mara brought out platter after platter. Roasted chicken with crispy skin, mashed potatoes with butter melting into yellow pools, green beans cooked with bacon, biscuits so light they practically floated off the plate, gravy thick enough to stand a spoon in. Dutch said a prayer before they ate, his voice rough with emotion. When he finished, he looked at Mara and said, "Best cook this ranch has ever had." "Better than Cookie Harrison?" one of the younger hands asked. "He worked for the Circle T for 15 years. "Better than Cookie," Dutch said firmly. "Better than anybody," another hand added. The others agreed, loudly. They heaped their plates and ate with the kind of single-minded focus men have when they are eating good food after a long day of hard work. Mara kept bringing more until they waved her off, groaning and laughing. "Ma'am," Dutch said when he finally pushed his plate away, "if you ever need anything, anything at all, you just say the word. Any man here would consider it an honor." The other hands nodded. One of them had taken off his hat and held it over his chest like he was in church. Mara's face went red, but she did not look away. She nodded, just once, and started passing the plates. When they finally left, calling out their thanks from the porch, Cole helped her clear the table. "You did not have to do that," he said. "I wanted to." She stacked the plates in the wash tub. "They work hard. They should eat well." He looked at her, standing there in the lamplight with her sleeves rolled up and her hair coming loose from its pins, and something in his chest went tight. After that, things changed. Mara stopped leaving on Saturdays. She stayed at the ranch, and the bruises faded. She smiled more. Not often, but enough that when it happened, Cole noticed. Lily started following her everywhere, and one morning in late April, when Mara was kneading bread, Lily spoke. It was just one word. "Mama?" Mara's hands went still. She looked down at the child standing beside her, and her eyes filled with tears. "Not your mama, sweet girl, but I am here." Lily nodded, satisfied, and went back to playing with her dough. Cole was standing in the doorway. He did not say anything, but Mara looked up and met his eyes, and something passed between them that did not need words. That summer, Cole asked her to marry him. He did not make a speech. He just said, "I would like you to stay, not as the housekeeper, as my wife." Mara looked at him for a long time. "Why?" "Because this house is better with you in it. Because Lily loves you. Because I—" He stopped, started again. "Because I do not want to live without you." She said yes. They were married in September in the small church in Copper Falls. The entire town turned out, not because they cared about Cole, who had kept himself separate from town life for years, but because word had spread about what he had done that morning in March, and people wanted to see for themselves what kind of woman was worth defending like that. Mara walked down the aisle in a dress she had sewn herself, from fabric Dutch had brought her from town. It was deep blue, the color of the sky just after sunset, with lace at the collar and cuffs. Her hair was pulled back and pinned with wildflowers Lily had picked that morning. She was not a small woman. She did not pretend to be. She walked with her head up and her shoulders back, and when she reached the front of the church where Cole was waiting, she looked him straight in the eye. He took her hand and did not let go for the rest of the ceremony. The preacher asked if anyone objected. There was a long pause. Tom Kendall was not there. He had left Montana 2 months before. Went south, someone said. It did not matter. He was gone. No one objected. When the ceremony was over, Cole kissed his wife in front of everyone. Lily clapped her hands and laughed out loud. The whole town came to the reception. They ate cake and drank punch and danced until the sun went down. Dutch made a toast that made Mara cry. The ranch hands sang a song about the woman who came to Montana with nothing and left with everything. They went back to the ranch that night in a wagon Dutch had decorated with ribbons. Lily fell asleep between them, her head on Mara's lap. Life went on the way it was supposed to go. Mara cooked and kept the house and made it into something more than a place to sleep and eat. She planted a garden in the spring and grew vegetables that lasted through the winter. She made curtains for the windows and quilts for the beds, and taught Lily to read and write and do sums. Cole worked the land and expanded the herd and built a new barn with help from the hands. In the winter of 1885, Mara gave birth to a son they named Samuel. He came early, during a blizzard that trapped everyone inside for 3 days. When the baby finally came, red-faced and screaming, Cole held him in his big hands and cried for the first time since his father died. 2 years later, a daughter named Rose. She came easier, born on a warm June morning with the windows open and the smell of hay coming in on the breeze. The children grew up strong and loved. Samuel had his father's quiet nature and his mother's practical hands. Rose was wild and funny and never stopped talking from the moment she learned how. The ranch prospered. Cole's herd grew to 200 head. Lily married a rancher from the next valley when she was 20. People in town still talked about the morning Cole Hartfield stood on his porch with a rifle and told Tom Kendall to leave and never come back. They talked about it for years. Some said it was romantic, some said it was reckless. But everyone agreed on one thing: Mara Hartfield was worth it. Every single bit of it. She was worth defending, worth fighting for, worth standing up for when no one else would. And Cole Hartfield never once regretted the choice he made that cold March morning when he saw the bruises and decided he would not look away.